So what's the first memory? If I ask you, what do you recall from 25 years ago? What is it? What is it for you?
Oh boy. I I can't remember the exact terminology that Mateen used when he was talking about this being special, but he was talking about it being special. I mean, 25 years since a Big Ten team has won the national championship and 25 years since we won it. And I think the longer that time goes on, it just gets more special. And I will say, I'm talking to people all the time about the NCAA tournament, and they're asking me what was it like, and I'm like, you've got to have a little bit of luck to win this thing. I mean, it's you got to survive the first round, which Michigan State did this last weekend. They stretched the game toward the end of the game, but I just remember that we had a purpose. We were all business. We felt like we were able to win the national championship, obviously based on the year before and the progress we had made. But it doesn't just happen. Like, I mean, you need healthy guys. You need good game plans. You need you need to feel the site that you're playing in, right? You need a little bit of luck, and you need a really good team to go along with all that. So I mean, it's really up in the air. Anybody can win this thing if they're an elite team in their conference or had a really good regular season and they can put all the pieces together.
And during the championship game, Mateen limps off the floor, basically breaks a bone, comes back into the game a la Willis Reed many years earlier, and helps lead you to victory. What were those moments like, and how fearful were you that Mateen may not even come back?
Well, look, it really is a situation when you lose your leader like that, you lose your point guard like that. But everybody needs to remember that we were in that situation earlier that year too, and so it wasn't as seemingly catastrophic as what it may have seemed. I mean, super important game, really pivotal period in that game. But at the same time, I mean, I think we were made up a team of guys that anybody was going to step up on any given night, and we didn't panic. Let's put it that way. So I mean, terrible situation, but we didn't panic, and I think that helped us to kind of just to close things out. And obviously, he came back and he played a portion of that game injured and was hobbling around, toward the end of that game, and I that brings some inspiration to the floor too when you're in that type of situation. But there certainly wasn't a panic, I would say, from all of us at that particular moment.
I don't want to overstate this, AJ, but 25 years later, how do you think that national championship, if at all, has changed your life?
Well, I think the entire experience of playing at an elite level in college prepares you for a lot of things. I was just sitting down with Jason Klein and Adam Wolf at dinner the other night, and Adam Wolf made the comment that that time in college playing this sport at a very high level, it prepared him for so many things. And I don't know that you can pinpoint any one thing, but there's pressure, there's commitment, right? Things that are important in everyday life are things that you learn life lesson wise when you're going through what you're going through at an elite level playing basketball. So it certainly didn't hurt as far as the preparation was concerned.
You had a young Tom Izzo then. I guess he was 45. It was only his fifth year as the head coach. And you know all about his tough love. Did that take a while to get used to for a lot of you guys, or did you just realize it comes with the territory with coach?
Yeah, I think that any major college program or even any D2 or sometimes even any D3 is going to have a demanding coach. And yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to. I mean, depending upon your situation and what you're coming out of, I had a pretty demanding high school coach, demanding in a different way. Um, ever present in today's basketball and today's sports at the collegiate level is how this is business now. And it wasn't so much at that time, just it wasn't it wasn't so direct that it was a business at that time, but it's very much a business. I mean, you're playing at an elite level to win championships. You're playing at an elite level to go to the next level and try to play, whether it's overseas or in the NBA. You're going to be challenged, right? I mean, the coaches are expected to perform. We see that all the time too. People are moving around. People are being fired. Coach had a decent start, but was a little questionable at the beginning. I think from a fan base, and I don't know so much from a university standpoint, but taking off at that point kind of cemented things, and he's proven that ever since. So, but it's a little bit to get used to, yeah. Speed, and it's not just the coaching; it's the speed of the game, it's the competitiveness against the other athletes that are out there. You need to show up every day.
You've made it back a couple of times this year. You've had reunions over the years. What's it like when you come back and see those guys? I mean, you guys have created a bond for life by winning a championship, haven't you?
I think that grows stronger every time we see each other when we're back. And as you start to, you said it earlier, it's been 25 years. As you start to age, you do start to appreciate things a little bit more. I don't want to say you take things for granted, but when you are younger and you can move and you're healthy, and every day that goes by now, you start to lose a little bit. You lose, and it's more physical than anything at this age, but you go through life experiences, you appreciate the bond that you had. It means more. I honestly, that's why I go back. It isn't. It's fun to watch the basketball game, but for me, it's more about being able to sit next to a guy or reminisce about a story or talk to somebody, and it's not just the players. It's you've been around a long time. I see Jack Ebling. I see people working the scorers table. You got Matt Steganga on the radio. I mean, you run into people that have been part of the program now for a very long time, and it's just for me that's more about what it's about when we go back versus also getting to watch a good basketball team play basketball.
I see you're wearing your Spartan colors today. You're in Ohio now. Are you a sickening Spartan guy with your Ohio brother in there whenever the Spartans play? Are you talking trash or what?
There's not very many of us down here. I'm smack dab in between Buckeye and Wolverine territory, and so it's interesting. Every once in a while, I'll get a go green, and I'm able to respond and go white, but it doesn't happen very often. Not nearly as often as when I'm up north. So we're around though. We're hiding in the shadows.
Do you see, as you watch this team, AJ, any similarities with this team as to your team 25 years ago or not?
I think they've got a really good mix. I don't know if the similarities are there. They're deep. They've got Cohen Carr is an unbelievable athlete. We're deep at the guard position. We're deep at the big man position. The game's changed so much since I played. A lot more sets, a lot more coming off of screens for shots versus a lot more self creation at this point. But the game's still the same. You gotta defend. You gotta rebound. And you still got to put the ball in the hole. And I think this team has everything. They just need to believe it, right? I mean, we were fortunate enough to win 3 Big Ten championships, win the Big Ten tourney twice, go to a Final Four the year before we won it, my senior year, and that experience helps. It certainly does. I made mention earlier, just the consecutive number of NCAA tournaments made is great for the coaches. It's not so great for the players, right? You still got to experience some of that. But they've just got to believe it. They survived the first weekend, and now they just have to believe that they can win because they do have all the tools to. I think make a run and potentially win this thing. It all comes down to matchups and who steps up. And if you want one similarity, I think that it's this. Our team did not. We had obviously prolific athletes and people that could produce points and do things. I mean, just look at the names on the roster and what they achieved after we were there. But nobody was a standout star on our team, right? From a stats perspective. And if there is one similarity, it is that this team, there's no standout star. People obviously are gravitating to certain names, but from a stats perspective, there's no standout star in this team because anybody can share the load on any given night. And so, if there is one similarity, I think that's probably the closest thing. Again, they just got to believe it, and somebody's got to step up when somebody gets taken away to produce. Right, that's the key. You can't disappear. So
Back to your team in '99, you made it to St. Pete, Tampa for the Final Four. It didn't go as well for you, but do you think a champion was born that year? Do you think that motivated you guys for the next year and lifted you?
I there's so much movement in college basketball now because of the NIL. It certainly helped that we had a nucleus of guys that had been through certain experiences up to that point. Um, I, I don't think. Look, there was never any part of our being where we were like, "Oh, we're not going to go after the NCAA championship this year." It's kind of like a foregone conclusion, and you're working towards it. Yeah, and do I think that the experience of the prior year helped with that? Yeah, it's not. It might sound weird to say it's not a spectacle. It really isn't. But the situation can become a little bit overwhelming. I mean, I people always ask me, "Were you nervous to go play in the national championship game?" Not nervous, anxious to play. I mean, at that I'm putting up 250, 300 shots before a game every game. And that's not to count, the thousands and thousands of shots that I've shot outside of that too. It's like, what else can I do to prepare for this moment? Right? You're only nervous when you're not prepared. You know the game plan, you know the scouting report, you've put in all the work. You show up, and I hate to say it's kind of like another day, but it's kind of like another day. It's just got higher level ramifications of what you can accomplish, right, with what's going on. So I'd say I don't know if that answers your question, but like it's just, yeah, you're meant to be there, and you put in all the work to be there, and so you show up and you play the game, and what happens happens. So it's but again, this team now has to believe that. They have to believe that they've put in that work, and somebody has to show up and produce when somebody else doesn't, or something gets taken away. That's basketball. You're gonna have different matchups every game, different scouting reports, different opponents, and you have to find a way to get it done.
I covered every game in that tournament run. I was in Detroit at the time, but you had a lot of very big buckets for this team. Maybe unheralded, if you would, but do you take one shining moment as you look back now on that tournament experience that comes to your mind, forefront of your mind, AJ?
I don't know. It's pretty cool to be able to say you had 19 and 9 in the national championship game, and it's also pretty cool to say that you had the only dunk in the entire game. I had the only dunk in the national championship game, which is shocking, right? But that's my that's my moment. I'm able to say that forever. I had the only dunk in the national championship game.
That's great. Good for you. I think, what are you doing these days?
I'm actually up your way quite a bit. I'm working real estate with Jason Klein.
Oh,
Um,
really?
he's been doing this now for about 10 years, and this summer we got together and talked about talked about it, and so I joined him, and so we're working the Michigan market.